Morning, everybody. Let me put on my face for a short while. My name is Muchinde Kashiwa. I will be your director of ceremony this morning to the afternoon. I welcome all members, all participants to the session. We shall soon start in a minute. In the meantime, we will have various presentations. If there is anything that any person would want to ask, you lift your hand, and then we can address the question or any remark that need to be made. Our presenters this morning, we will have our Vice Chancellor, Dr. Errol Naupop of the Namibia University of Science and Technology will do the welcoming. We'll have the Dean of Faculty of Natural Resources and Spatial Sciences, Professor Becker, will also give a presentation after the welcoming. And then we have our Minister, Honorable Karl Schleitwein, Minister of Agriculture, Water and Land Reform, to give his presentation, because this is happening within the realm of his ministry and the work that the ministry is carrying out. The minister will then leave the meeting to attend to other urgent matters of cabinet. After that, we will then start with the launch. We'll have Jean Duplessis of the UN Habitat GLTN program. He's a land specialist. And then we have Professor David Mitchell of the Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology from University of Melbourne, Australia. Dr. Agnes Maswabi from RD University, Tanzania. She is with the East African Land Administration Network, ELAND. We have Professor Greenville Barnes, also a specialist in land tenure security issues or land governance, also one of the presenters and contributors to the materials, the teaching essentials. He is from the University of Florida. We have another presenter, also contribute to the modules of the essential materials from the University of West Indies, Dr. Asad Mohammed, Jamaica. Of course, then we will have from Twente University, JAP, Sven Bergen, Netherlands, Dr. Dimo Todorovsky from the University of Twente. And then we have Prof. Siraj Said. He is the co-chair of the GLTN, the Global Land Tool Network International Research and Training Cluster. He co-chairs that cluster with Professor Eugene Chikbu here at the University of Namibia University of Science and Technology at NUST. Also, Professor Stig Enemak, once also a visiting professor here at NUST, but from Aalborg, will also do a presentation later on. So, in brief, those are our key presenters for the day. We will call, if I think everybody is now on board, my Vice Chancellor Errol Naupop to do the welcoming of the colleagues and all our participants across the globe who are currently listening in. We have I just wanted to check how many we have. A lot of people actually who have joined us all over the world, who will be with us for much of the day. Without much time wasting, I will call upon my Vice Chancellor to do the welcoming of the team. Thank you. Prof. Errol.
Yes, thank you so much for the platform. Director of Ceremonies, Professor Muchinde Kashiwa. Honorable Carl Sluitwine, Minister of Agriculture, Water and Land Reform, Professor Rolf Becker, Dean of the Faculty of Natural Resources and Spatial Sciences, Global Land Tool Network International Research and Training Cluster Partners, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to the launch on the Structured Knowledge Base on Responsible Land Administration. I would like to extend a special word of welcome to Honorable Carl Sluitwine, the Minister of Agriculture, Water and Land Reform. Sir, your participation here today lends the necessary significance that matters of land administration deserves. NAST joined the Global Land Tool Network in 2020 as a partner in the International Research and Training Cluster. The material designed by the GLTN partner will be essential in supporting the design and content of courses, teaching and learning, open to NAST and all stakeholders in the land sector. The modules were developed by internationally renowned experts in the field of land administration, some of whom are joining us here today. The purpose of the GLTN was to fill gaps in delivering land tenure security and support for improved land delivery and management at scale. This is achieved through the development of land tools and the sharing of knowledge on land administration and governance. The implementation of any of the land tools is according to country context. As an institution that is tasked with the generation and dissemination of new knowledge,
the university being a network for land governance in Africa, and us being the node for Southern Africa, with membership of over 30 institutions in Southern Africa, and also then being a member of the International Federation of Surveyors. The University of Namibia is really forthcoming and participating in global networks and building the work that we do with partners, and thereby also showing to the world what the university is capable of doing. With that brief summary, I'll call upon our Honorable Minister, Carl Sluitwine, Minister of Agriculture, Water and Land Reform, to give a few remarks. Actually, it's not the minister. Sorry for that. First is the Rolf, the Dean of Faculty, before I get to the ministers. Apologies. Professor Rolf Becker, would you please come in? It is the Dean of Faculty. Thank you.
Not sure if you can see my video.
Prof, are you uploading a presentation?
No, I was hoping to see my video, but don't worry about it. I'm not that pretty, so we can do without me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Professor Chindi Kachua, our Director of Ceremonies, the Honorable Carl Sluitwine, Minister of Agriculture, Water and Land Reform, Dr. Errol Naumaap, Vice Chancellor of the Namibia University of Science and Technology, partners of the Global Land Tool Network Research and Training Cluster, staff members, students, greetings to all of you. The Faculty of Natural Resources and Spatial Sciences at NAST recognizes that tackling land and natural resource challenges, for example, climate change, land conflicts, food insecurity, and environmental degradation, is a mandatory aspect of achieving the global development agenda through the Sustainable Development Goals. That is why our vision has always been and will remain to become a world-class academic leader in education research and innovation in the natural resources and spatial sciences. Our research and teaching are focused on contributions at local, national, and international levels towards the achievement of sustainable development. We are happy that our Department of Land and Property Sciences is carrying this aspiration within the area of land administration and land governance. The work contributed by the GLTN Research and Training Cluster, and the structured knowledge base and responsible land administration provides a window of opportunity to complement teaching content and support the development of short courses within the faculty. We hope that our collaborations within the GLTN partnership will continue to serve as an important opportunity for us to contribute globally, as well as a challenge that will enable us to engage with other world-class institutions in the collaborative effort to research and educate the best ways to manage land and natural resources for sustainability. I'm confident that the launch of the GLTN structured knowledge base, responsible land administration, will be a huge success and look forward to the future. Welcome to all of you dialed in. I hope you have a fruitful workshop. Finally, congratulations to the organizers of this prestigious event. We are honored to have everybody on board, and the organizers have certainly made us proud, and I appreciate it very much. Thank you very much. May I say that the lunch is on me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Rolf Becker. We'll come over for lunch any time after the COVID. Since you haven't put a deadline to when we can come for that lunch.
I look forward to the day, sir.
Thank you. Both you and the Vice Chancellor have highlighted our global role as being working towards being a world-class university in the field of natural resources and spatial sciences, focusing on research, teaching, imparting those skills to our young generation, future generations, and to continue playing a global role with partners, networking partners and partners. Teamwork always wins. So with that, I will call upon the Honorable Minister, Kalle Schleitwein, Minister of Agriculture, Water and Land Reform. Honorable Minister, please, you are welcome.
Thank you very much, and good morning to everybody. I'm recognizing Professor Uchenye Kachua, Director of Ceremonies. You have indicated that I have another commitment, but I will stay to listen to all these very eminent persons that you have invited, because I believe it is a very special chance to share with the world outside there what we together with NUST want to do. So I will be with you for some time. Thank you very much for the invitation and the welcoming. Dr. Harold Nawab, Vice Chancellor of the Namibian University of Science and Technology, NUST. Professor Rolf Becker, the Dean of the Faculty of Natural Resources and Spatial Science. Partners of the Global Land Tool Network Research and Training Cluster. Distinguished invited guests, and we have indeed a very impressive list of distinguished guests, management, staff members, and students. It is my honor to join you at this auspicious occasion, making the virtual launch of the structured, knowledge-based, and responsible land administration here and now. Director of Ceremonies, the Ministry of Agriculture, Water and Land Reform has been a supporter and promoter of land administration capacity development in collaboration with NUST as early as 1996. This process of training of graduates in the field of land management and land administration began with the initiative of the former Ministry of Lands, Resettlement and Rehabilitation in collaboration with ITC, now the Department of the University of Twente in the Netherlands, where the first land measurers and land use planners were trained at the then Polytech of Namibia, which became a fully fledged university known as NUST now, Namibia University of Science and Technology. The program grew to become a fully fledged program at the university level, training and land surveyors admissible for registration as professional land surveyors by the Council of Land Surveyors in Namibia. The program was further expanded to include valuation and deeds registration. The technical professions form part of our land reform program. Being part of the launching of the structured, knowledge-based and responsible land administration is yet another opportunity to connect as partners in supporting capacity development for one of the most important sectors in the national development agenda. Ladies and gentlemen, land is the most valuable but finite and scarce resource. It is currently a resource which is not equitably shared. Land reform is intertwined with historical, political, constitutional, legal, economic, traditional and ancestral rights issues, and is currently probably the most complex and sometimes contentious issue that we have to engage in and resolve amicably. It is indeed a matter that concerns and impacts on each and every citizen. The Ministry, as the direct implementer of land reform-related activities in Namibia, must have a solid skills and knowledge base to meaningfully and fairly implement this complex reform, and therefore our support is vital for the capacity development in land administration and related issues. This is so because of the aforementioned mandate that we have in the Ministry of Agriculture, Water and Land Reform. Those who undergo training and receive education in land administration ultimately either work for the ministry, in other tiers of government, or in the private sector, where their work brings them into close contact with the Ministry of Agriculture, Water and Land Reform and land reform and administration matters. The need for capacity and skills development in this area is growing, if not already urgent, when one considers the current increase in urban population and related economic developments, which increase not only the demand for land, but the pressure thereon as well. Ladies and gentlemen, improved land administration systems are essential for achieving national development goals with respect to poverty reduction, improved access to services, and reduced land degradation. As a developing nation, this is an opportunity for Namibia. I believe land administration systems can further reduce land conflicts and improve tenure security. For any institution, most importantly those implementing land administration-related activities, there will be a need for specialized expertise to guide and support improved land governance and enhance the existing legal and institutional frameworks. Importantly, this will serve to strengthen trust and confidence in our processes and related outcomes. Achieving land tenure security is vital in the quest for improved livelihoods, reduced environmental degradation, and increased investment in land. As most people are aware, land is a valuable resource, maybe the most valuable resource, a factor of production that links social, legal, environmental, and economic foundations of a country. Various experiences exist on the issue of land around the world. From all those, one thing is certain, and that is that land and its associated natural resources like water, forests, and minerals is central to attaining socio-economic development. It would not be accurate to say that Namibia does not face challenges with respect to land. However, stakeholders at local and national level are actively working to address these through implementation of various urban and rural development reform programs. In the urban context, the flexible land tenure system has reached advanced stages for implementation. Within the rural, communal land registration has improved tenure security and enhanced access to invest in land through the registration of leaseholds. Currently, we are reviewing the rules for applying and allocating leaseholds in communal areas, but also rules for selecting and allotting resettlement farmers in commercial settings. Director of Ceremonies, NUST is a strong stakeholder in our activities and has done well in providing education, training, as well as conducting researching on the issues of land. In this regard, we are grateful that the university has made a significant positive contribution towards the development of Namibia. Graduates from the institution's land administration program play key roles in my ministry, where they support efficiently and effective land administration in various directorates of the ministry and other government agencies. We are therefore pleased that NUST is hosting the rollout of this teaching essentials and this resource will serve as an essential knowledge base for capacity development in various aspects of our work at the ministry, particularly in the aspects of knowledge and land administration, tenure security, food security, land-based financing, and land delivery for housing. I appreciate the opportunity to oversee the opening of this workshop, and I'm similarly pleased to note that the number of staff from the Ministry of Agriculture, Water and Land Reform will be participating in this initiative. To our international guests, we welcome you to Namibia. We wish you a productive event going forward. We are happy to share our problems, our challenges, but also our opportunities with you. We look forward to your input in our suggestions and in our training programs. And with these few remarks, it is now my pleasure to declare the workshop of structured knowledge base on responsible land administration officially open. And I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister Kalle Schledwijn, for a very broad presentation touching on many things, aspects that the conference is going to touch on. You reminded me of our president 3 years ago, when we had the second National Land Conference, his commitment to the land sector, to the concerns of communities, to resolving the land issue. The president said in that week-long conference, without leaving the conference facility, conference rooms. So your commitment to stay around to hear what the key speakers will be talking about, that you learn from the speakers, at least be aware of what is happening, that will allow you to use your staff members to access these tools or this expertise. The Global Land Tool Network, it's merely focusing on the development of innovative tools for inclusive, secure land tenure. And together with that, the African Network for Land Governance, of which NUST is hosting the node for Southern Africa, is also concerned or dealing with land access, livelihood issues, land administration, land governance. So these two networks basically fit into the work plan of our key stakeholders, such as the Ministries of Agriculture, Ministries of Land, Ministries of Urban and Rural Developments in the region, or in Africa as a whole, to provide such tools that ministries and agencies can use to ensure secure land tenure and food security. So appreciate your submission and officially opening this conference or this e-workshop. With that, we are doing well in terms of time. We can now proceed to Mr. Jean du Plessis to launch the material. Jean du Plessis, please, you can come on board now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I trust you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Fantastic, thank you. Today, my job is the easy job. Thank you for the opportunity. It's actually a huge privilege for me, having worked in the Secretariat of the Global Land Tool Network since 2011, in charge of capacity development and also some of the other tools being developed. It's a huge moment today to celebrate a long journey. The colleagues who were involved in developing the teaching essentials will know that it was not always an easy journey either, administratively and process-wise. It was a struggle to get where we are today, but I think it was a struggle that was worthwhile. The initial ambition that we had was to create a curriculum. Soon we realized that an off-the-shelf curriculum will not really work because curriculums are very context-specific in terms of the institutions using them and in terms of the countries in which they're based and the issues being faced. So we moved from that, and this is a number of years ago, initially under the University of Twente's leadership within the cluster, then University of East London, then RMIT came on board, and eventually also now NUST is on board, and we're very, very pleased about that as well. So what the concept then evolved into was rather to create a set of modules that can be used and adapted by people who are training or teaching or researching in the area of responsible land administration. And I think we've achieved that, and we've achieved it really well. It went through a number of iterations. The 6 modules that are in place have been online for a while. We also had, with the assistance, the wonderful assistance of GIZ and the cooperation of NELGA, we've ended up with French translations of the modules, and those are also now online. So I'm not launching something that's not been available for a while, but I'm launching something, we are launching something which is now ready to be used, institutionalized, and adapted. So it's been a wonderful journey, and I just want to just go through, if I may, find it on another screen. I just want to go through the institutions that were involved, and I'm sure I'm going to leave out 1 or 2, so apologies in advance. But it's worth recognizing RMIT University, University of East London, University of Florida, University of the West Indies, University of Twente, Aalborg University, RD University, the Technical University of Munich, and then, of course, the Network of Excellence in Land Governance in Africa, and my colleagues in UN Habitat and NUST. And I'm sure if I've left anyone out, that's not intentional. So it was really a teamwork, and it's a mark of the work being done by the Global Land Tool Network, which is recognized for years. You need different professions, you need different academic institutions, you need civil society and others involved if you are ever going to address the land problem. So it's a multi-sectoral, multidisciplinary initiative to one day achieve a world in which everyone enjoys secure land rights, and of course the development that is associated with that. So again, thank you very much for the opportunity. I really look forward to hearing the details from my colleagues. I also co-authored one of the modules that are going to be presented, and I'm excited for the rest of the day. Much appreciated to be with you, and let's have a wonderful 2 days of thinking and sharing around the teaching essentials. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Thank you for that overview. And we appreciate that the network is growing, and all the work that has been done so far is through teamwork. Teamworks always win. We shall now proceed to Professor David Mitchell from RMIT, University of Melbourne. Professor David Mitchell will present on the core values and principles of responsible land administration. Professor Mitchell. Professor Mitchell. Is Professor Mitchell on? Royal Mabagay, are you see Mitchell on board?
No, I don't see Professor David Mitchell, but maybe we can move on to Siraj, or we can give Siraj side an opportunity to give an overview on the module he authored, while we see if David from Australia will be joining us.
So who can give the overall presentation now?
We can give an opportunity to Siraj Said from the University of East London.
Prof. Siraj Said is London University, co-chair of GLTN, the research and training cluster. If you're here, please, you can give the overall on the training materials.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
I'm a professor from the University of East London, and along with Nus and Professor Eugene Chikbu, one of the coordinators of the academic cluster of the Global Land Tool Network, which, as Jean de Plessis noted earlier, is very strong. It has 30 members of academic institutions, but also works very closely with networks right across the world, including NELGA. So among our many initiatives, one of the initiatives, of course, has been to strengthen land curriculum globally. And as John has explained earlier, this has been specifically directed towards not just the academic institutions, but also professionals, civil society, and so on. So as Jean explained just a short while ago, this project began several years earlier and has involved major institutions right across the world. And it has, in fact, generated several key modules. And these modules, have generic as well as very specialized content, and has been co-produced by universities as well as by professionals working on the ground. So apart from land administration, land and human rights, I think all of these will come to the fore. And I was just taken out of turn, so I don't have a PowerPoint presentation right now. But can I just add that this has been an absolute privilege to be involved, and the role that Global Land Tool Network has initiated and NUST has taken on board. I also see that David Mitchell from RMIT, who along with the University of East London coordinated this, has not appeared yet. I hope he will. But there are very many other important authors as well as contributors, scholars, whom you'll hear in just a moment. So I would merely hand this back to you by saying that there are several different dimensions of this structured knowledge base. One, of course, is the content, the updated, critical, strategic, interdisciplinary, multi-sectoral thinking as far as land itself has said. As the Honourable Minister pointed out, that land holds a huge significance, not just to overall development aspects, but also to individual empowerment, communities, and so on and so forth. Well, it is, of course, the fulcrum of many of the issues of sustainability, food security, and human rights and empowerment that we speak of. And finally, I would say that this is not only about developing content, which I think we have made some breakthrough, but it's also about delivery and ultimately about rollout. So one of the major objectives, as has already been pointed out over here, and in the coming days that we'll be thinking about, is how to utilize this resource that has been jointly developed and produced in order that people at different places and levels and objectives are able to utilize it, adapt it, and ultimately claim ownership. So I think what we have done so far is provide a platform, and grateful to Global Nanotool Network. And as John DePlucy pointed out, this is easily available, but how can we take it several steps forward? So I think NUST has co-organized, and my colleagues Eugene, Royal, and many of the others so well, to bring many of the contributors and the authors today together so that we can listen not merely to the content and the strategy, but also practical ways of moving forward. So I'll come back in turn in just a short while later to talk about land-based financing. But for now, thank you very much. Welcome. No, back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Siraj, for that overview. I think I will now call Dr. Agnes Mashubi from RD University, Tanzania, to also elaborate on the core values and principles of responsible land administration. Agnes, are you on board? Agnes?
Sorry, apologies, Prof. Dr. Agnes won't be joining us, and that's the same with Dr. Asad Mohammed. So looking at the time in the US, Professor Gernot Barnes also won't be available at the specific hour. So I'm going to give, if we could give an opportunity to Dr. Dimo Todorowski to give an overview on the module on responsible land administration and information in practice, if that would work.
Thank you, Royal. In case participants are wondering who's Royal Mabakeng, Ms. Mabakeng is the team leader of GLTN, the NAST partnership. She is in the Department of Land and Property Sciences here at NAST and is our team leader and the key organizer of this workshop. So let's have Dimo to do the presentation then. Thank you.
A very good morning from the Netherlands, and I would like to start with honorary guests, honorary professors, dear colleagues and friends. I'm very happy to be here today and to present Module 4 from Teaching Essentials on responsible land administration on behalf of the work done on University of Twente faculty ITC. First of all, let me go back a little bit in the history, and I would like to acknowledge that before the writing of these essentials modules, ITC and University of Twente were involved with doing needs assessment, and I would like to thank my colleagues that were involved at that time in the previous, I can call it sub-project for this work. And within this period, we, or University of Twente, within the project, approach all universities around the world that were having land administration in their teaching curriculum. And we did needs assessment, what is available and what is needed, and then the idea about developing an online curriculum that was mentioned by Jean Duplessis was also on the table, and we were discussing whether and how to develop an online curriculum on responsible land administration. After this needs assessment was done, I had an honor to present the results of this needs assessment within a workshop that was done in 2017, I think it was November, in the University of East London. And that was within the workshop to start skeletoning or to put the structure of these teaching essentials that we have now and today. And it was very fruitful workshop where we put the skeleton or the structure of these teaching essentials, and then we divided tasks what shall be done within these teaching essentials. I'm happy to mention that University of Twente or ITC got a task to develop materials for Module 4, which is called Responsible Land Administration and Information in Practice. And Professor Zevenbergen and I get opportunity to work on this module and to develop further content and to develop further materials for this online platform Module 4. I would like to add here that each of these modules represents 2 ECTS credits, and it can be used in any university or any teaching or training institution. And 1 ECTS credit stands for 28 contact hours. And within our modules, we develop materials for approximately 15 hours of teachers' direct teaching within a classroom or training session. And the rest are practicals, videos, additional reading materials, where students can spend approximately other 50 hours for their self-studies. So the modules itself are divided within the structure of 3 to 5 lessons. And in the case of our module, Responsible Land Administration Information in Practice, we developed further 5 additional lessons. And those lessons were Land Administration Principles, Introduction to Public Administration, Introduction to Capacity Development, Modern Management Practices, and Land Information Principles and Concepts. I would touch upon a little bit on the content of these lessons. And regarding the first lesson, which was Land Administration Principles, we tried to answer what should be land administration system to capture on. Then we worked on needs to widen the current land administration approaches, broadening the scope of land administration. And this first lesson ends and finishes with principles of responsible land administration. Land administration in practice is addressing the challenges and opportunities that arose when implementing this. Then it goes further with a conceptual framework for land administration in practice. What are implications and opportunities? And what are the principles of land administration for sustainable development? The third lesson within the first part is about transparency, monitoring and evaluation of land administration in practice. And the topics here are linked to the title. So we spend some time on explaining transparency in land administration, how and what tools are needed for monitoring and evaluation of land administration in practice, what assessment frameworks are available, but we also explored and presented other evaluation and monitoring initiatives that are within land administration practice. So within each lesson, there are subtopics, and after the subtopics, appropriate literature as reference is provided, but also videos that are available regarding that topic and additional posters or other teaching materials. So all these lessons are ready for land professional trainers or teachers or professors that they can use it. So there is introductory text. Each lesson has, each module has from 60 to 70 pages text, which can be used for introductory, but also with content, with definitions, with principles, with concepts and models. So it was really very structural work that can be put in process, and it can be disseminated, and each university all around the world that is addressing the topic of land administration and specifically responsible land administration can use them in their everyday work. The second lesson was Introduction to Public Administration and Organizational Changes. And here we addressed the topics of what is public administration, what is the difference between government and governance, and what are the benefits of good governance in place. Then the concepts of what is an organization and how land administration agencies are organized. Then we saw some organograms and other models, how these organizations are presented. But at the end, we presented concepts of organizations and organizational culture. Going further to the third lesson, which was capacity development and monitoring of the change. First, we introduced the concepts of capacity development in general, what was under a United Nations commitment to capacity development. Then why is capacity development important for land administration domain? And we presented, and there are available several approaches to capacity development. Second topic of the lesson was developing and implementing capacity development strategies like capacity assessment, or we can call it training needs assessment or capacity needs assessment. And then which are available implementation strategies for this capacity development. Of course, we are living in time where we see that the change is present everywhere, with, of course, the biggest impact from introducing new technologies, for example. So the third part of lesson 3 was how to monitor the change, how to monitor implementation of new capacity development strategies. Topics within these lessons are impact on land administration systems and new way to measure those impacts. And here I would like to say that University of Twente and Faculty of ITC is inspiring students to invest their resources and their research topics in the area of impact assessments, because a lot of literature and a lot of studies are done how to implement new methodologies, how to implement new ways of land administration. And then after the period of such implementation, appropriate impact studies can be beneficial to measure what are the effects of these impacts. Sometimes we hope for positive, but there are always some parts that can be improved, or we don't like to mention it, but sometimes in some implementation cases, there were also not so good results. And at the end of lesson 3, we invested in creating material and content about capacity building to support fit-for-purpose approaches to land administration. Of course, the fit-for-purpose approach is very much in trend nowadays, and many countries around the world are testing and piloting concepts of fit-for-purpose land administration. The lesson 4 within our module was about tools that are available in order to improve land administration effectiveness. In this regard, we address the topic of modern land management practices, and then we explored and presented tools and methods to reorganize land administration. Within this part, we address how the strategies can be developed to improve business of these land administration organizations or their core work, and how ICT performance in national land administration systems can be implemented by these strategies. The topic of re-engineering existing land administration system is part of this sub-lesson, but also redesign and, as I said, developing and implementing strategies is core of this lesson. The third part of lesson 4 is about costing and financing of land administration services. And here we presented the concept of COFLAS, which is one of the tools which is developed in order to address the topics of costing and financing land administration system services. First, we explained what is COFAS and then how is COFAS implemented in some of the countries with guidance of how can that be implemented in other case studies. And finally, lesson 5 from the module that we worked on together with Professor Zevenbergen was on land information management principles. Of course, within this lesson, there were several subtopics, and the first one was land information management principles and concepts. And here we started with general information management concepts, and then we introduced land administration and land administration information management. Important here is to address information management principles, but also because our topic of land administration complexity is to have the spatial units within our land information systems, there is significant content on spatial units as component of land information systems. How to create, how to maintain, and how to disseminate land information is the core of every land administration organization. And to do these three functions, land information systems are very important and they should be in good functioning situation. So significant content is in last lesson on land information systems, how they are created, but also it is important to pay attention of acquisition of land information, both on textual information about land information, but also spatial information. And that is the topic that is very important, and we teach our students that linking these two databases, which can be separate, but it's better and best if they work as one and one integrated system. That's the uniqueness and that's the importance of having a functional and effective land information system. Within this regard, there are international standards that are facilitating responsible land administration, and significant place in this module is on spatial tenure domain, social tenure domain model, STDM, but also on land administration domain model. The last lesson ends with topic on contemporary challenges in management of land information. And in this last subsection of the last lesson, we are trying to answer the question, what are the dimensions of change in land administration? So in brief, I think I spent enough time explaining the content of our module, which was on the topic responsible land administration and information in practice. And again, I would like to thank the organizers for this opportunity, and in behalf of University of Twente, Faculty ITC, to thank you for this opportunity, and I would like to express my wish that we are ready for further collaboration on rolling out this teaching essentials as structural knowledge base. Thank you, Chair, and thank you all that were listening in the audience.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Todorowski. Dimo, thank you for that broad presentation. I also want to make it clear to the participants that the resource materials that are being presented are available on GLTN network, and it's open access, it's free material. So it's important now to really understand what they're all about, and such that we take it to our institutions and to impart it to the colleagues in our organizations. I think we'll move forward to the presentation on core values and principles of responsible land administration. Mitchell and Agnes are not here, so I think I will call upon Jean Duplessis as a co-author of these modules to do the presentation. Jean, you can take the floor. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I am now caught slightly unawares, so allow me to stumble a bit if you don't mind. I'm just actually now trying to open relevant documents on my screen. Apologies for this. David sits in an unspeakable time zone of Australia. He's not, doesn't look present on WhatsApp, so something must have happened for him not to be here. I have a number of disclaimers, if I may. I'm not an academic. I'm a land practitioner, and so I cannot really speak to the academic dimensions of it, but let me just run you through what Module 1 has in it. I want to preface that just with saying that there is an e-learning platform on the Global Land Tool Network website that you can register on. Everything there is free of charge. You will find your way through to the English and French versions of the Responsible Land Administration Teaching Essentials. These are put forward on a Creative Commons access, public access, which means there are some limitations on the use, but it's a very generous level of copyright. And again here, let's give credit to the institutions and the individuals involved in the writing of these various models for opening it up. My understanding of this particular Creative Commons license is you may use, as long as it's not for profit. You may download, and they're available readily in PDF format. You may change. You can use pieces of it. You do not have to use the whole if you just want to insert a particular lecture or issue. You may change on condition that one may, I'm not referring to anyone in particular, one may change on the condition that the authorship, the initial authorship is acknowledged, and also even if you don't change, credit must be given to both the institutions involved and the authors. So those are the conditions, very well-known level of Creative Commons license, which means that any lecturer needing something for tomorrow can look in here, take it out. But at the same time, anyone who wants to build a full curriculum or a particular curriculum can use these materials as long as there's those acknowledgements. I also just want to add that's not been said. These are living documents. We would usually appreciate new case studies being brought on board. We want it to be interactive. So it's in that spirit that this is presented. And of course, anything can be improved, and we're hoping to improve them and have them used. But the emphasis for the moment is use and give feedback. Okay, so Module 1 is on core values and principles of responsible land administration. And given GLTN being born from a recognition by now. The network as a whole is more than, I think, on last count, with 83 international partners. The recognition that conventional land administration systems are not delivering and not likely to deliver what is needed in terms of fixing the way land is administered and governed globally. The pace is too slow, the processes are too cumbersome, the challenges seem too huge. So it's an idea of being creative, and then we, the authors and everyone involved, sort of coined or piggybacked on the notion of responsible land administration. And so the first is the general sort of 101 part of the overall idea of a curriculum that we drew up. The authors involved were David Mitchell, Siraj Said, who's spoken already, myself, and Agnes Swastumbi from Tanzania. So I'm just going to just quickly run through what is in there in terms of the intentions, etc. The rationale has got to do with what is known, I think, to everyone in the room. Land is a finite resource. Competition for it is intensifying for many reasons and processes, including more recently also climate change. And so there are huge challenges. Land tenure includes a wide range of rights, responsibilities, and restrictions. Competing claims over land often occur when there's unequal power and resources. Low-income countries have particularly huge problems that we see increasingly now. You look in Europe, you look in the US, the problems are actually everywhere. The kind of technical aspects of this is similar to what Dimo just described in terms of the level at which this is pitched and the nature and the format of it. So all the different modules actually follow that so that it can fit into existing curricula or form the basis of curricula with certification. Okay, so then obviously the course will teach the issues in relation to the rationale and the objective of the particular module is that by the end of the module, so the general objective is learners will appreciate the importance of responsible land administration, understand the scope, objectives, and principles of the responsible land administration, understand the different roles involved and the importance of collaboration amongst different levels of organization. You can already hear from this that understanding and the way of teaching really does need to include practical examples and, if possible, student assignments that then feed into the different ways in which it's put across. The module lists the principles and values of responsible land administration, as well as the outcomes, functions, and processes of responsible land administration as a basis for the modules that follow. So what are the learning objectives then? At the end of the module, learners should be able to, one, define the term land administration and discuss why security of tenure is important. Summarize and interpret the underlying summarize and interpret the underlying values and principles of responsible land administration. Number 3, categorize and distinguish different types of land tools used to implement responsible land administration. 4, define the fit-for-purpose approach to land administration and summarize how fit-for-purpose land administration systems can be built. And then lastly, explain how land administration systems can help record land tenure rights for all people. The fit-for-purpose principle, which we hope it doesn't become too fashionable too soon because it has really real meaning in it in relation to land. It's a little bit of do as little as you can, but as much as you need to. Be flexible in how one administers. And speaking of Namibia, the flexible land tenure legislation and systems being put in place are an excellent example of how there's an attempt to create another channel into the area of land tenure security for those who don't have the facilities and the resources that people investing in private property rights might have. Okay, so then the structure. And I'll end with that, and I really invite people to look at this for themselves from an academic perspective and from a teaching perspective and give us feedback. But there's 5 lessons, 1.1 relates to land power and people, introduction to land administration, global drivers and challenges for land administration. Lesson 1.2, introduction to responsible land administration, principles of responsible land administration. 1.3, an introduction to land tools and the whole idea of what land tools are and how they get used. Land tools and responsible land administration, implementation of land tools. And then 4, introduction to fit for purpose land administration, building the fit for purpose framework and implementing fit for purpose land approach. And 1.5, the importance of recording land rights for the poor, principles and approaches, and then principles and approaches of pro-poor land recordation. This is a 101 that I think everybody should do or redo, including myself, because it really has to do with the foundation on which everything else is built. It's also one that would need to be updated as one goes, as new challenges arise. I think lessons from the COVID-19 pandemic already require some kind of insertion of information in here. But I think that is as far as I will go. Anywhere from here, not being an academic or a lecturer, I might be on unsteady ground. My particular input into this related to the idea of a continuum of land rights, which is the tool that I lead on. The other area where I have been doing a lot of work on land and property taxation and leveraging land for revenue resources, which actually is part of another module, which I'm sure Siraj will speak about later. That's as much as I have. I had to pick up on this at very, very short notice. And I'm sure David would have done a much better job, but in his absence, I'm afraid this is what you've got, Chair. Back over to you.
Thank you, Du Plessis, for that. You have done a good job. You have set the principles and the tools, because it is the principles that guide us, and the tools to implement a responsible land administration. Jap, if there are comments or additions that you want to make, you could add a few. Then before, perhaps I can call on Professor Chikbu to present on some of the course materials that he has also contributed to. Jap, do you have any comment?
Good morning, everybody. I think the overviews have been great. We are very happy to also have the presence of the Minister and the Vice Chancellor in launching this. As Jan was saying, there's a long history. I think I looked it up earlier this year. The first time Jan and I talked about it was in 2012. So we are already in the 9th year of preparing it. I'm very glad that we are where we are. And I'm also very glad to see that Namibia is a good example where the development of the capacity has been continuously gotten attention, also in a structural way. First, as was mentioned, by starting programs at the former Polytechnic, and now with the focus that NUS is having on this. So we're very pleased to see all of that. And good to hear things are moving. And I think we are really getting there. And I hope that we will have a big impact in many places, but that every university also picks what they feel they can use and leave out what does not fit their system. I think that's an important principle of the material, that it's that you can personalize it, that it's not a full-fledged thing you have to use, but that it is a knowledge base that you can use. And some things might be outdated or no longer logical for your specific country. So all the best with the continued launching and all the activities. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Jap. I see Siraj, you have your hand up. You want to come in there? Please do.
Yeah. Thank you very much. This is Siraj Said. And as one of the co-authors, I just very much wanted to appreciate Jean at short notice to provide an overview of the core essentials, the core values. The first chapter was in fact very important because there can be various different dimensions of it. But as you rightly pointed out yourself, that we are talking about the core values, approaches, objectives, whether we are talking about the continuum of land rights or we are talking about multi-stakeholder approaches. This is very much important to pull together. But I think the important message was that land being multifaceted, has different dimensions and meanings for people, has not just the legal, the spatial, the economic and the social dimension, but is required to be pulled together not just through land administration, land governance, but to community-led understandings and approaches. So I would, invite everybody to have a look at this particular chapter, to contribute the chapter, because as Yap has said, and I think as Stieg and many of those have written, apart from constantly updating what's out there, it's also the innovations that are taking place at the community level that needs to inform the land discourse. So Yap mentioned that this has been an ongoing process. And I think since the last few years, things have quite radically changed. The COVID context being only one among them, the conflict dimension, whether it be the sustainability aspect of it. So the ambition happens to be, as has been pointed out, is to use this structured knowledge base. I think Dimor rightly referred to it as a skeleton, and how we can, add new approaches and partnerships within the context of Africa or globally. So thank you very much. I just wanted to appreciate that this important role in bringing us all together, think about, what is this seemingly serpentine concept of land, how we can, through our various tools, decode it and move it forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Siraj, for that broad reflection on the dimensions of land, its meaning, its uses to various sectors of our communities, and therefore the various tools that could be applicable to do a more inclusive land tenure security. I think now I will call upon Professor Eugene Chikbu of NAST to present on behalf of Dr. Asad Mohammed on participatory land use planning and management as a co-author of that module. Prof. Chikbu, are you on board now?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks to you and for calling me up. And it's unfortunate that Asad is not here, but he's in Trinidad and Tobago, and so it's the timing may not be the best for him. But I would like to start by thanking the Honorable Minister for coming around, the NOST Vice Chancellor, and all the members of the cluster of GLTN, Jean, and all the authors, of these modules. So, but without wasting your time, because I was supposed to speak later, but I have to now because of Professor Asad is not here. I'll just talk a little bit about him, then before I move into the participatory land use planning and land management. Asad is a senior lecturer, Department of Geomatics, Engineering and Land Management at the University of the West Indies at St. Augustine, Trinidad and Tobago. He's currently the coordinator of the graduate program in the urban and regional planning of that university, and which he's helped establish in 1994. So he's been very much involved in planning. He has been an advisor and consultant to many Caribbean governments and multilateral agencies in the region working on planning, land and housing matters. Academically, Asad holds a PhD in city and regional planning from Cornell University in the United States. So this particular module on land use planning and land management, participatory land use plan and land management, the aim actually is to present planning as an aspect of both land administration and management, because it includes critical elements of the nature and process of land use planning as it relates to the broader objectives of responsible land administration. So the module is designed to provide an understanding of the issues surrounding land use planning and management and its role in land administration particularly. So it's within the interface of planning and management in the context of land use. So the aim generally is that it is grounded on 11 principles for implementation of responsible land administration. Secure land rights is one of them, non-discriminatory issues, equitability, gender sensitivity, there are several of them. The module also aims to equip the students of land administration and practitioners within the planning departments as well with key theories of application and issues within the field of land use planning, including the evolution to a more participatory processes and its information requirements. So its main objective is that it's actually designed with European Credit Transfer System ECTS of 2 and includes teaching resources that support approximately 15 hours of teacher-directed tuition within the classroom or training session. And in this, in the current situation, it can also be done online. A typical lesson in this module may include lecture materials, examples, interactive exercises and group discussions, and support approximately 50 hours of self-study. At the end of the module, students and practitioners and learners are expected to at least, among other objectives, understand the nature and elements of land use and territorial planning processes. They are also meant to understand the evolution of the process from a primarily technical exercise to an inclusive participatory processes. It's also expected that they should understand the relationship between land use planning and land management processes in the context of land tenure and land administration issues. So the lessons basically are structured in 5. The first lesson deals on the role and functions of land use planning, the influences on and implementation of land use planning itself, and the levels at which land use planning takes place. The second lesson is focused on urbanization and land use planning, the concepts of sustainable development, and as well as environmental inputs to land use planning. The third lecture looks at the interface of land use planning and land policy, and part of it also includes exploring the role of the state in addressing tenure and informality in development. And of course, mapping and data analysis, which are essential parts of land use planning. It also deals on the technical inputs to land use planning. Now, the fourth lesson will take learners to the understanding of land use planning and urban planning, and improving land use planning and urban planning within the context of, within local context, focusing on fit for purpose dimensions. It also looks at the typical tools and practices in rural planning. And this is essential because rural planning is not something we really talk about, especially in most developing countries. We have a tendency to discuss urban and regional planning. Urban planning naturally dominates because of the strong global urban agenda, but the rural areas seem to be the missing piece in all of this. the argument has been that the regional part does take care of the rural perspective, but then this module presents the perspective that if there is urban planning, there should be rural planning. And so it presents the tools and practices for application of planning, land use planning within the rural perspective or the rural geography. It also looks at critical urban land use tools and ways of supporting mechanisms for land use planning itself. And finally, the fifth lesson or component is on community and participatory planning. It also looks at planning for hazards and risks and monitoring and evaluation processes in the context of planning, land use planning. And then it looks at the international dimension in terms of policies and trends in land use planning and urbanization. So this particular module is very much all encompassing when it comes to land use planning, because it looks at the environmental risk and hazard issues. It looks at the rural dimension. It actually draws into the community planning or community development context, and as well as dealing with the usual urban planning issues. So I'm really, to me, it's really a good opportunity to present it, because even though I didn't draft the module, while Assad was working on this, we should have done it together. I was working on tenure responsive land use planning, which is an entirely different tool by the GLTN, but both are very much connected, because Assad here presented, a very highly technical and then socially grounded module. So I would advise that universities, trainers, community, those involved in community work, and actually the ministries, and I'm glad that the minister is here, the ministries can actually use this module very much in capacity development at the very local level, as well as in their work. So it's very great to have you all here, to have the universities and the research institutions actually come together with the final users or the potential users of this module. And so I would like to thank you all. And once again, I'm sorry that Assad isn't here, but because of the time factor, some of us are living in the night, in the midnight, early morning, and over here, some people are living right in the midday. So thanks very much. That's my background on the module.
Thank you, Professor Chikbu, for that presentation on behalf of Dr. Assad Mohammed on participatory land use planning and management. And in all of this, we are seeing the same trend, very characteristics of GLTN, presenting first the themes, the various themes, the stakeholders involved, and principles, approaches, and then the tools to actually get this implemented and have the necessary impact in our communities, in our agencies for more sustainable land management and land governance and sustainable livelihoods, sustainable environmental management, and so forth. Just to give you an overview of the program where we are now, we have covered much of the materials. David Mitchell's content is covered. We have tried to cover that. Also that of Dr. Agnes Masubi. We have land tenure security. That's probably what we haven't covered effectively, because Professor Greenwell Barnes is from Florida is not around. So we have covered that now on participatory planning. Responsible land administration, also I've covered that. Dr. Dimo, I've covered his material. I think the main content remaining is that of land-based finance by Professor Siraj, and then Stig Enemark, who will present on policy and regulatory frameworks. Then we have questions and remarks before we then can close. So I think with that, I will call Siraj to give us a broad presentation on land finance-based approaches. Prof. Siraj Said, you are on.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
I don't know if you're able to see my screen.
Yes, we are seeing the screen.
Okay, so thank you very much. So once again, just to see that this package, which is the structured knowledge base, is multifaceted. As I had indicated, the drivers of this particular package were aware of the legal, the spatial, the social, but also the economic dimensions. So I'm going to focus on land-based financing. And but you can see that land-based financing, in fact, in just a short while, there is links to all the various dimensions. So the economic dimensions of land need particular consideration broadly, but also in terms of funding land development and infrastructure and so on. So I'm going to pick up from the internet itself, where I'm going to look at what you have access to. Are you able to see the screen in terms of the GLTN module land-based finance?
Yes. Yes, we're seeing it.
Okay. Yeah. So this is.
We're seeing it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You know, I'm actually in India on annual leave and mandatory sort of quarantine. So there's a little bit of difficulty with connectivity and so on, but I'm really pleased to be part of this discussion. And so looking at Module 5, which is land-based finance, I'm going to quickly go through, as other people have, what are the table of contents? What were we trying to do? But before that, it's important just to look at what were our overall objectives. So first of all, we're looking at how we're able to have land-based financing tools for land administration, because the government cannot run its services or provide support without having the funding. How can it really support public infrastructure, public services, and ultimately, as you will see, on to sustainable development? So this module, therefore, as I've indicated, includes all dimensions. It's interdisciplinary because it is about land law, planning, administration, and various aspects such as registration, taxation, also land tenure, land valuation regulations, and all of which deal with land-based financing issues. So it's not just the existence of these complex tools relating to land-based financing, but how we can use it. And once again, we come on to what are the basic principles, what are some of the technical aspects of it. And among our objectives was to ensure that our audience is quite broad, because a lot of people tend to get, put off by the technical aspects of it. So at once, this module was trying to link to other modules, to link to various professionals and stakeholders, but also emphasize how at various levels, land-based financing, used here as LBF, could be relevant to meeting the challenges of urban development and infrastructure. So what we're trying to do over here is for governments, both at the national level and at the local level, who are seeking finances, diversify revenue streams, and support public-private partnerships. So what we should be able to do at the end of it is be able to look at a range of land-based financing tools, in which some of which can be applied in particular contexts. What are their strengths and weaknesses? How do we distinguish various techniques? For example, as part of LBF, we would need to have evaluation of land and compensation and taxation and so on and so forth. So these are issues of costing and financing land administration structures. And also when we have identified what are these challenges, because LBF, as we will see, is contingent upon the existence of sufficiently developed land administration system, even legal systems, even valuation systems, and etc. How can we really work around this to achieve sustainable and equitable development? By equitable development, I'm talking about all sections of society, including women, and young people and so on. So let's just look at the structure of the knowledge base. As Eugene and others have pointed out, most of these individual modules are divided into what we call 5 lessons. So we start off, first of all, in demystifying land-based financing. What is land-based financing? What is relevance? Why do we need it? And how do we use it? And we also try to distinguish, because a lot of people tend to bundle up all ideas of economics and financing together. So there are, of course, the functioning land and capital markets. And there's also, as we said, access to finance and other issues. But by land-based financing, we're talking about it as a process or a tool that's available where governments and sometimes quasi-governmental organizations can borrow money in order to reinvest in the development of land itself, including land services, but also land administration. So the first one, therefore, is an introduction. I think this is where students actually enjoy grappling with various concepts and so on. But it's easy to talk about land-based financing and its importance. We'll come to that in a minute. We need to know, what do we mean specifically by land-based financing, because it does mean different things to different people, but there's some broad characteristics of it. So what are the principles and concepts of land-based financing? And then we try to see different types of land-based financing. So that was the second session, which was really laying out on the table what's available and how choices can be made by, evaluating which is best suitable, adaptable, appropriate to a given context, depending on both the context as well as the strength of the supporting systems. As you would have already gathered, we are talking about land-based financing as land capture. That is to say, that is to capture the unearned increment. So when property prices go up, who is to benefit from it? You would think it's normally the owner of the property, but in fact, by using a lot more sophisticated approach, it should be everybody has rights over that particular property, but also the community itself where it's located, and finally it has to be the government, because that government has played a role in some way in improving the value of the property. For example, by building a highway or a railway station and so on and so forth. But my limited point over here happens to be, before we come on to that little understanding of land-based financing, is that you need to be able to have a sophisticated, appropriate, and actually quite a credible way of knowing the value of land at various stages. So it could be the value of land at a particular point of time, and then after a development takes place. And of course, this is the, if I can be blasphemous enough, this is the holy grail, in the sense that if you could only figure out, how we can, acceptably as well as accurately evaluate land. Now, there are exceptional professionals in all parts of the world, including Africa, but fewer number of them. And they cannot do this entirely on their own. So what we do in section number 5, as understanding, land value capture itself, is to understand land value and purposes and methods of land valuation. And then we also, so valuation is needed for a variety of purposes, but also for calculating, for example, taxation or at time of sale, and sometimes compensation. So we look at valuation of land in a little more sophisticated manner. And then we see how newer methods of valuation of land are applied and used in the implementation of land-based financing instruments. So what we have done so far is just understood land-based financing, models of land-based financing, how we implement it, but really then we move on in lesson number 5 to linking land-based financing within a functioning and a fit-for-purpose responsive land administration system that many of our colleagues, and including Stieg and others, have developed so well. So we start out by talking about land-based financing, a fabulous concept, controversial, but there are really practical challenges. So what are these challenges and how we address it? And many of our answers lies in institutionalizing, in being able to develop practices, tools, and others that are embedded within land administration systems, and also to find out who does what are expectations, what are bundle of rights, and how they can be understood and utilized in the context of LBF. And therefore, we recognize, and as all of you would have already gathered, that when we talk about land-based financing, we are really talking about how we could also empower local governments to use land, the asset that they have, both their own land as well as through land taxation and others, to be able to develop land-based financing models for development through this responsible land administration. So it's really a very powerful tool. And as you can imagine, this is quite predictable, because in many ways, land is, in many countries, comes within the purview or the jurisdiction of local government and so on. And we really want to empower local governments. And therefore, what we have seen is an interest on this. And I think Jean, along with other colleagues, have worked on promoting land-based financing, different variety of tools in various parts of the world at a multi-scalar level, meaning that also at the local level. So I have contributed to training, whether in Indonesia or in Saudi Arabia, on municipal finance, which essentially is often used in this context to say how municipal governments can raise finance for a variety of reasons. It could be for budgets, but really it's for infrastructure and land development. So the final lesson, as I'm getting to, is not to think of land-based financing as a goal in itself. Of course, it's a medium. And ultimately linking on how we can use land-based financing ethically and opportunistically to deliver on sustainable urban development. So if you look at the Sustainable Development Goals, you will see that they are not only more ambitious, but they're very expensive to deliver, to implement, and so on. And also, so therefore, we look at what is a development mandate generally. And if you recall, when we talk about the Addis Ababa declaration on development finance or ethical finance, so all this is wrapped up in the idea of what are our overall objectives in terms of sustainable land development, but also broader development. So how can we use LBF to promote sustainable urbanization and urban development itself? So you would imagine that we are now going to talk about not only participatory and transparent processes, because this is also part of land governance, but we also need to talk about how land-based financing should be participated in terms of reflecting the needs and the priorities of local communities. And again, let's not just lump communities together, but understand the concept of the big conflict or disaster, but also understand that there are minority groups, there are disadvantaged women or youth, and many other categories that need to be accommodated, that they should be able to access the benefits of land-based financing. So our final point, therefore, is on partnerships, stakeholder engagement in land-based financing. And this has not happened. So one of our real worries about land-based financing is it's on one hand quite top-down, though it should be the other way around. So it's all about the state. And you would imagine that because land administration plays a very important role in this. But as we try to talk about a transparent, participative land administration, we hope that land-based financing, not just methods, but the way the yields are used, as well as it's monitored and evaluated, could be gender responsive. I have at the World Bank spoken about how finance is actually a right. So this is governance issues and so on. So this is what our structure looks like. And I will not take too much time because I think there's a little bit much as to do. But as you can see, that students being able to, in a certain sense, not be intimidated by the idea of land-based finance, but really look at it through the public, private partnerships, the context, and so on, would help go a long way. So in our introduction, of course, we identify what is land-based financing, which, as you know, is a flexible set of instruments that can be adapted to a variety of institutional and cultural contexts. What they do is they diversify the revenue streams that are available for local development by leveraging land. So where you have improved local finances, you're able to then apply it for local infrastructure services. And this actually can have far-reaching social and economic benefits. And GLTN has been working on this in so many different ways, including land readjustments. So there's simpler ways of doing it. And I'm just going to run through it. So we do make a case, if you would like to look at it, on how land-based financing is relevant. And so it is, I must warn you, quite long, but we thought we will put in the information out here. There's an explanation wherever possible through illustrations about various concepts. And of course, how LBF works in the context of land markets and capital markets. And you also have at the end of each place what might be valuable for anybody who's researching it, key literature and further reading. This is quite intensive. And you can see, therefore, when you're talking about, for example, land-based financing, and you look at sort of different models, by which I mean different types that are available, you can see that this has been explained quite extensively. So you have the name of the instrument, the impact fees, developer exactions, betterment levies. And it goes on to sale or lease of publicly held land. So many times, the benefits by this sale or lease of land, PPP, acquisition and sale of land and access, and then sale of development rights. And we've also tapped into ongoing research at depth, which is limited. And so I'm going to stop over there just to say I'm happy to share with you a recent article that I have written, which is called Land-Based Financing for Sustainable Urban Development in Africa, Challenges and Prospects. So what I could do is, I hope I'll be able to use the chat. Yeah, I can give you a link on that. And as you can see, and there are a lot of references over here which you can link up. So there is an opportunity to do some original work over here. So essentially, African cities are expanding, and so is the pressure to improve infrastructure and public services. So at the same time, local governments are struggling to finance new urban development because the tax receipts are falling, and they're not even able to maintain existing infrastructure. So land has inherent advantage in generating revenue, you know that. And so the LBF, therefore, is being considered or piloted as innovative and additional source of budgets for public services and wider sustainability. In many parts of Africa, we need to see that this cross-fertilization piloting does take place, which is what GLTN and particularly Jean Duplessis is heading. So here, in this particular article, we're looking at the potential limitations of implementing LBF in Africa in the socioeconomic land political context, which have been under research. But using this particular study, I'm referring you here to the structured knowledge base to understand that better. So, however, this one, we need to use the continuum method, look at land rights, land markets, planning processes, valuation, protocols, local economic development stakeholder involvement as part of wider functional land governance. So we also have literature review produced through this structured knowledge base, and we're critically exploring that RLA principles, professional practices, and technical capacities so that they could be deployed effectively in terms of invigorating smart, prosperous, fair, and inclusive African cities. Now, my final point would have to be that this structured knowledge base can be used, of course, independently, every bit of it. So you could just be focusing on land administration. But I would suggest for universities as well as other stakeholders that you don't have to be an expert or have preconceived preference for land-based financing. I think as you read it, you would see that it flows very well and is integrated within the general discourse of land and urban development, whether it be in Africa or abroad. So thank you very much for the opportunity. Yeah, I'll stop over here.
Thank you, Siraj, for that broad presentation, very much in depth. Royal, I see your hand was up. Royal? Or is, okay, you have put it down. It's a very important presentation and topic that you have raised, that of valuation, taxation, land markets, very current discussion in Namibia, issues that we are battling with and seeking solutions in terms of valuation of freehold land, valuation of communal land, customary lands, issues of peri-urban and urban development. All that talks to fair and just compensation in cases of expropriation or land earmarked for urban development being taken out of customary land use. So it's an important topic for which most countries, including Namibia, would continue to need input and support through NAST and other stakeholders. I see Jean Duplessis, you have your hand up. I can give you the opportunity to add a few words or to raise the issue that you have. Okay, Jean.
Thank you, Prof, and thanks also to Siraj. I appreciate the detail that he went into because it gives an idea of what these modules have inside them, and there's just teasers that we can give in the space available in this meeting. But again, to encourage everyone, take a look, link up with us, give feedback, try out, and then we can build this forward together as we go. On the issue of leveraging land for resources, it is a huge area right now of great potential, and also one where I think learning institutions can play a massive role, because creativity is needed, flexibility is needed, the old models don't always work, and there's a lot to do and a lot to be gained, even at informal settlement level. At a point where a state starts giving recognition to people's presence in a place, an interaction between local government and residents can begin at a very basic level, because the main issue is always services and layout, and the issue of delivering those services and linked to contributions made by residents can already begin to create a kind of a social contract that can be built upon. It requires a framework that can make it possible. It requires a national framework that allows local revenue collection at certain levels, but it certainly can be building blocks for fixing what is broken, particularly in the areas where people are out of desperation just settling where they can. So it is just one of 6 modules, of course, in one area, but it is one where things can become very exciting for learning, because one is free in the learning environment to explore a bit and see. And I hope the next generation of responsible land administrators coming from our learning institutions can go with these little ideas in their toolboxes when they go out into the world of land administration. Just to appreciate Siraj's detail, and just to ask everyone to dig into all the modules for this level of it is there. Thank you, and over.
Thank you. And because our time is also running, I have had a discussion quickly on the sideline with Professor Chikbu, and since he's an expert in the responsible land tenure issues and land governance, and he told me that Prof. Barnes, they have also discussed the issue a bit, so he could jump in for a few minutes, just less than 10 or 5 minutes, to give that outline of Professor Barnes' presentation. Chikbu, I will give you the time and then hand over to Stick before you come and close. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I had to jump in once again because Professor Bremvels, Barney, as we like to call him, from University of Florida, actually told me that this was to start about 4 a.m. over there, so he wasn't sure, but he promised to come, but something must have happened. So he gave me some few words to talk about on the module. And I also think it's essential that we do not omit any of the modules, because this is our best chance to let everybody know what the modules are. I also see that my dean, Professor Rolf Becker, the dean for Faculty of Natural Resources and Special Sciences at NOST, is here. I would like to acknowledge his presence and thank him for being around. So to speak on the module on land tenure security, I'll start by introducing Professor Grenville Burns. He has a PhD from University of Wisconsin with focus on land issues, specifically geodesy. And he's an associate professor at the School of Forest Resources and Conservation. And his research area and areas of work and teaching around land tenure, cadastral and land registration systems, geomatics, land and geographic information systems. And his areas of geographical areas of focus are Botswana, Dr. Congo, Malawi, Mozambique, of course, Namibia, and South Africa. So the module itself is land tenure security, which also happens to be one of my key areas. The objective of this module it was designed also based on 2 ECTS credits and includes teaching resources that support approximately 15 hours of teacher-directed tuition within classroom or training sessions. Upon completion, the module is expected that those students or trainers or anyone who's exposed to this module would learn to describe customary and informal land tenure systems with reference to specific case studies or examples, and statistically describe the population of society that live under customary and informal land tenure. The module is also shaped to identify issues, limitations, and constraints around customary and informal land tenure systems. And of course, it's expected that whoever goes through this module as a fundamental issue should be able to choose and apply appropriate tools, from a range of options to improve land tenure security. In terms of structure, and as we are running out of time, I'll just breeze through it. In terms of structure, the land tenure security module is composed of 4 lessons. The first one deals on what land tenure is actually. And a lot of people, obviously within our land administration, land management, or land governance sector, definitely would claim to understand what land tenure is, but actually land tenure can mean different things to different people, even to the government, to communities, to individuals, or people in commerce and people, in residential and normal community household living. So it's expected that it would introduce the land tenure systems to learners, as well as distinguish between tenure and property rights. Because these 2 things are not the same. And of course, the perception of legitimacy that surrounds tenure, as well as the social legitimacies that surround it, as well as the land law and land statutory issues in general. So the second lesson would move from land tenure to land tenure security, and goes into the assessment of tenure security, as well as the various land tools for improving tenure security and the continuum concepts of tenure security. The third lecture introduces the goals of land administration and links it to both the land tenure systems as well as the tenure security objectives. And then land administration processes. It will look at special data infrastructure and land information systems, as well as land disputes resolutions and other forms of applications of tenure security issues. And then finally, the last one lesson looks at the impact of recording of land rights. So here we're talking about recordation and documentation as a mandatory process in securing tenure, and then look at issues and various options for recording, and then draws it back into the responsible land administration and land management systems with regards to keeping evaluation and monitoring methods in terms of maintenance and updating of records and enforcement of these records in such a way that they do not impede tenure security, but rather broaden the horizon of tenure security. So I think that's for short. I would leave it at this point, but those are the 4 lessons that actually constitutes the land tenure security module. And I'm presenting this in honor of Previous, who happen not to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we can hear you. Thank you, Prof. Chikwu. I see Siraj has his hand up. Perhaps Siraj, you have a question?
No, first of all, very closely with Eugene, and I once again would like to thank him.
You're done? Thank you. Yes, you're done. Thank you. We shall now move to Professor Stig Enemark, who will present on land policy and regulatory frameworks. After that, we shall have questions, also quite brief, less than maybe 5 minutes of questions. Then we do closing remarks. Professor Stig?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. You can
Good morning.
Present or put up your presentation. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm, as you may know, a professor emeritus at Aalborg University in land management, and in fact, I was head of school there for 15 years. So this issue of education and training is very close to my heart. Most of you will know as well that I'm the past president of FIG, the International Federation of Surveyors. I was president for 2007 to 10. So in this context, I've been very strongly involved with GLTN over the years, and involved in all kinds of activities since it was started in about 2006. This also goes to the recent publication on fit for purpose land administration. I'm also hold the position as a young professor at NOST over the last 3 years. So that has been a real pleasure, and in that regard, I feel very much at home at this workshop. So thank you. Now, I will take a little bit more of a helicopter view to present this this module on land policy, and I will try to see if I can share my screen. I'm not sure how I do that. Just give me a second.
That's okay. We're only hearing the clicks.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what happens here, so I'm sorry.
No worries, Prof.
Yeah. I can't get back to the.
Can you email it to Royal? You have email.
Yes, yes, Prof. Dick, you can email it to me, and then I can project it for you.
Yeah.
Okay. Just a second.
Sorry for that, colleagues. In the meantime, those who have questions, prepare your questions, because we shall run out of time. But I'm sure by 11:30 we should be done. Siraj, you have your hand up again?
Yes, sorry, I had some connectivity issues earlier. I merely want to mention that we have such an illustrious list of delegates over here who are participating. There's so many that I wish we could hear from, but I would like to suggest, take the liberty, even though it might be putting them on a spot. We have Professor Ainul Jaria from Malaysia. We also have Khalili from Egypt, who might want to make comment on this and also draw in their own experience. But that is just a suggestion for the chair. When the time comes, maybe after Steve's presentation or whenever it's appropriate.
All right, thank you, Siraj. Sorry, Prof. Kachua. While we're waiting for Prof. Enemark to finalize the settings, we are just now having the company of Professor Genwell Barnes, who has managed to make time for the presentation. I know Professor Chikwu already gave an overview, but maybe he could share a few words while we finalize setting up for Professor Enemark.
Okay, since an overview was given, shall that be less than 5 minutes? Prof. Barnes? Prof. Barnes, I hear you are on. Prof. Enemark, while you are sending your presentation to either me or Royal Mapakeng,
I just sent it to Royal. Yeah.
Yeah. We will now allow Professor Barnes. And thanks, Siraj, for those two suggestions for questions from the professors from Egypt and Malaysia. But at the same vein, I will also would want my honorable minister to say a concluding word there as we are, or a remark as we're going to conclude towards the end. Prof. Barnes, please, you are next.
Okay, I don't know if you can see my video. Can you?
We can't yet.
Okay, I think I'm used to using Zoom, so this is a little bit new to me. Okay, well, I'll just continue. So thanks, Eugene. I'm sorry, I've just joined. It's 5 a.m. here in Florida, so I'm not at my brightest, and I'm not exactly sure what's happened. I just caught the end of Eugene's presentation of the summary of the section that I was involved with. For those of you who don't know me, I'm emeritus professor at the University of Florida, where I taught for about 27 years, and have been working actively around the world in land tenure, as many of you have. So, can I just check that everybody's hearing me?
We can hear you, but we can't see the presentation. You could also send the presentation to Royal if. Yeah. Royal Mapakeng, the email.
I think I'll just go through, just make a few comments, because Eugene's already sort of touched on everything, just to make a few points. So.
Thank you.
So, talking about land tenure, first of all, is a sort of a rubbery term, and often gets mixed up with property rights and things. So in the module that I was involved with, I really tried to sort of tease out the difference between these two, and the difference between sort of formal rights and informal rights. And it's really important, particularly not just even in the African context, but in various contexts. I've done a lot of work in Latin America, and so you see a lot of informal rights around large cities all over the world. And so one of the things I address is how do you move from informality to getting formal property rights, and going through that process, recognizing that, you know, there isn't just one thing called ownership. You have to sort of unpack that, and how do you do that? So in that module, we go through trying to analyze different rights and sort of unpack what does land tenure really mean in different contexts. Very important not to just come with sort of one lens on, you know, the typical thing is to just treat ownership as freehold or, you know, full rights, which is very specific to a legal system. So, you know, I deal with different ways of analyzing property rights, and like the unbundle of rights and tenure box approaches to that. I think it's really important to do this and to recognize things like customary tenure systems, which, you know, exist all over the world and continue to exist. So do you want me to just stop there so that we can go forward with Steg's presentation?
Yes, I think it's fine. We can go with Steg's presentation, and if you could please share the PowerPoint presentation, and then we can use it in the documentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Real. Thank you. Prof. Enemark.
Yes, I'm here. Now, Royal, have you got my presentation? Yeah, good. Now, this is just a front page I did for the draft. So just put the next one on. Yeah. Now, this final module on land policy and regulatory frameworks is also divided into these five lessons, and you will see the subjects coming up on the screen here. And to the very left, you will see the full contents of no, please go back, Royal. To the left, you will see the full contents of this module of about 70 pages, and all the subsections, all the sub-issues included. I know you can't read it, but you will be able to if you look into the e-version. One way of presenting this, I like to present this subject by a question. So say, what is a land policy? You pose the questions and you try to actually explain about it. So you will see the five lessons. The first one is, of course, defining land policy and regulatory framework. What is it? Understanding the issue of land governance, where land policy is really playing a key role, and of course the nature of land policy frameworks divided into all the specific subjects. The second lesson is about the drivers for actually producing this kind of policies. So I'll go into detail with the global agenda, 2030 global agenda, the sustainable development goals, all kind of regional and national challenges in this regard, and how to monitor and evaluate the progress of meeting the sustainable development goals in terms of providing these kind of land policies. The third lesson is about the scope, if you like, the scope and components that's included in land policies. It's about sectoral policies and state land management, which is a key issue that, you know, the state land has to be managed as well, but it's often done in a more, if you like, secret way. And so I want to explain about this kind of policies, and the policies related to the different sectors of agriculture, water, and all that. In many countries, you don't have a comprehensive land policy, but a range of sectoral land policies. And finally, about policy making and regulation. The fourth lesson is about land policy in the country context. So I provide a whole range of examples from Malawi, Cambodia, Brazil, and a very comprehensive case study from Uganda, from the very start to the very end of adopting this land policy, including all the issues that are dealt with. So here's a real case study to see all the details about providing a land policy. The final fifth lesson is about I try to recapture the relevance of land policy in terms of land governance and land administration, and how to enable land policy processes in terms of funding and the whole process about it, and finally about assessment and capacity development for dealing with this big issue. A good way to present, I think, what this kind of module is all about, and this kind of learning document is all about, is to try to identify what should be the outcome for the students when they try to use this learning document. And it could be for lectures at university, but it could be any kind of self-studies and capacity development activities. So by completing this kind of model, the students should be able to describe the nature of various land policies. This is dealt with in lesson 1. To be able to describe the drivers for developing such policies, dealt with in lesson 2. To identify components to be included in land policy formulation and land-related regulations, dealt with in lesson 3. And to assess and compare various country-specific land policies and regulatory frameworks as presented in lesson 4. And finally, explain how land policies can be enforced through sustainable land administration systems and the regulatory institutional framework dealt with in lesson 5. Now, just to give you a little bit of an idea about where we are with land policies in terms of responsive land administration, I put up a few slides and just provide the next one. Well. Yeah. Now you see where land policy sits within this land management paradigm, as I call it, where you have the land administration function. Just go back. Roll. Go back one. Go. Yeah. With the land administration function sit in the center, and you will see it's kind of fed in by a land policy framework you will see to the left, and this module is then about, you will see as identified in the triangle, how this land policy framework supports, if you like, the whole land management paradigm. The next one, well. And here you will see how land policies sit in the whole system. So it's about dealing with access to land in forms of land right and levels of land tenure security. It's about regulation of land sales and rental markets, land valuation, land tax, land use planning and control, managing natural resources in state lands, and managing development and public land acquisition. So it's about dealing with a whole range of issues in societies such as poverty eradication, food security, sustainable housing, economic growth, social equity, and climate change. So it's actually a very, very important component in the whole land governance setup in any society. It's about political aims and objectives on allocation of land and its benefits. Take the next one, Roy. And here's just an example of a land policy. This one is from Kenya. So you can see all the issues here dealt with. in terms of the problem to be solved by providing these kind of land policies, the land question within a specific context, the land policy framework as such, the land tenure issues, the land use management issue, the land administration issues, the land issues requiring special interventions, and then institutional frameworks for dealing with all this. So, and how this is going to be implemented. So this is just a good example of a land policy, in this case from Kenya, and quite a few examples are given within this this module of land policy. Then the last one, Royal. Go for, yeah. Now this is just to indicate where land policy sits within this overall framework of land governance. And you will see land policy sits in the top, being the determining values, objectives, and the legal framework for managing of society's major assets, namely its land. It feeds into the land management paradigm, as you just saw on the slide, that is supported by the land administration system that includes the core functions of land tenure, land value, land use, and land development. It's supported by the land the spatial data infrastructures, and is all identified in terms on the ground by the cadastre that provides the spatial integrity of every land parcel. So eventually it feeds into the land parcel as a key object for identification of land rights and administration of restrictions. So this is the model of land in society, if you like. So this is the overall understanding of where land policy sits in society. So hopefully this model enables an understanding of this, if you like, more helicopter perspective of the whole land governance, land administration issues. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof. Enemark, for that insightful presentation. As you're saying, helicopter view, very good for policymakers to see how all this sits together. I think now, just for logistics, before we go towards the last part of the workshop, I'm sure at one point, the Royal, you would want us to take a picture of people present in the workshop. If there is that opportunity, and if you want that, we can arrange, you could arrange for that we have a picture of the group. But now we go into questions and answers sessions, and Siraz made specific requests that perhaps it would be good to get some input from Egypt, the colleague from Egypt and Malaysia, as we're also concluding with the questions or concluding remarks before we give to Chikpu, who will do the closing remarks, since our Honorable Minister is still in our midst and the Vice Chancellor is still with us. It might be also opportune towards that end of questions and answers and remarks to give to the Vice Chancellor and the Honorable Minister before Chikpu can officially give the closing remarks. I see there's a hand somewhere. Is it Royal? You have a hand up.
All right. Just to add on to the additional logistics, if you have a question, what you need to do is just raise your hand up, and then we will enable your microphone and camera. I also see Prof mentioned if the Honorable Minister has any additional remarks or reflection from the general presentations.
Thank you. I'm trying to look for hands.
All right, the Honorable Minister's hand is up, I see.
Should I? Okay. Usually, I would want to give him towards the end. Let me give to Martin Shapi. Martin Shapi. Martin Shapi, is your mic on? No, you haven't enabled Shapi's mic.
Okay, Mr. Shapi, Dr. Shapi, your camera is enabled and also your microphone. You can go ahead.
I noticed that he's muted. Martin is muted.
Yes, please unmute yourself, Martin.
Martin,
while we
there.
wait,
Otherwise, while we're waiting, yes. Who's next?
We have one from Jack Strauss. Let me just enable his mic and camera.
Thank you.
Mr. Strauss, you can, yeah.
Thank you so much, Ms. Mabakeng. Good day, everybody. My name is Jack Strauss. I'm a graduate from a land administration program at NAST. Also the president of the Student Society for our course, our faculty, our department rather. The questions I have for Professor Stig Enemag. I'm currently stationed at the local authority here in Keetmanshoop. And one of the issues that I've noticed even in my research is that there's no land policy for this local authority specifically. And in the presentation that Professor Enemag was doing, I could only see there was examples of national land policies. But I also think that land policies for local authorities are very, very important. Also, the question I wanted to ask him specifically is that if he knows of any local authorities and what are the biggest problems when it comes to local authorities and land policy formulation. Secondly, also, is there any success stories for land policy formulation in local authorities in Africa, for example? Also, where can we get the presentation if it will be available?
Thank you. Thank you. Should I get one more question, then we get the answers? Shapi, are you on board now? If you aren't, okay, Martin Shapi, your mic is off. Siraj, you solicited reflection remarks from the colleagues from Egypt and Malaysia. Can any of those two colleagues raise their hands if you want to add or make a remark?
Yes, Chair, I had not followed protocol in checking up with them first. So it's just a spontaneous recognition of their presence. So they're welcome to speak.
Yes, there's Khalil. Please, Khalil, I give you the chance now.
Thank you all. Thank you, Siraj, for putting me on the spot. It's a pleasure to be here today, and of course, being part of the NELGA for the North Africa and the Cairo focal point, the Egypt focal point. I was really interested in the content, and also I'm a professor at Cairo University, the Department of Architecture, and I'm an urban planner as well. So we are considering starting a new module for land governance in our postgraduate program. So the content of today's workshop is really beneficial to our progress. So just wanted to thank you all, and we'll be looking forward to more about these content and also browsing through the teaching material on the website. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Would be good if any speaker can put up the camera also on, activate the camera so that when we meet on the streets, we can recognize. Thank you. In the absence of any other, yes, Jean Duplessis, thank you, Kevin. Thank you, madam. Yes, Jean.
I just wanted to briefly say that we don't have access to chat. I wanted to put on the chat the link to the Teaching Essentials materials for people to access. But perhaps we can do that in some other way, Royal, if you can just link up with me so that everyone knows how to access them online. Thank you.
Yeah, we will upload I will just insert the link right now. All right, thanks.
Thank you. I think without requesting any others, shall I move towards the end and ask my Vice Chancellor if he's still on board? Reflect on the proceedings and then go to the Honorable Minister and Chikbu can do the closing remark. Would that be okay, Royal? I see you are activating yourself.
Oh yes, no, Prof, it's fine. If we give, because now we are actually ahead of schedule, which is a good thing. So we will go in and there was a question by Jack Strauss. So maybe if Professor Ennemark has just a few comments on that, and then we can give an opportunity for additional contributions by Honorable Kalle Schlatwein. I'm not sure if he's still in here. Oh yeah, he's still in here. I don't know why his status has changed to attendee, but I already changed that. So maybe if we can give Prof. Ennemark, please.
There you are, Professor Ennemark. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. Now, Royal, in order to give a few remarks, could you put up my my presentation again? There's one specific slide I'll refer to.
Okay, just give me a second.
Yes.
All right. All right.
Yeah, that slide. Just blow it up.
Okay.
That one, yeah, that's good. Now, to answer the question about, if you like, local community land policies, if you like, or there's quite a few issues. If you look at the content of a national land policy as listed here, and you go down to section 3 about the land policy framework, you see there's some issues that can only be dealt with at national level, which is about the overall land tenure issues, the overall constitutional issues, the overall institutional issues, and so on. But there are quite a few issues, especially related to land use management issues, that can easily be dealt with in policies at the local level. And so it just have to be respecting, if you like, the overall national policies in these specific areas. So there are many issues that can be dealt with locally and set up in a land use policy. Is just, if you like, a subsection of a national policy, if such a land policy actually exists. But a few issues can be dealt with anyway at the local level. So I can't really come up with just here an example, but I will wish you good luck with dealing with that, which is very well known in the area of spatial planning, where you often have spatial planning at national level, at regional level, at local level, and down at neighborhood level, if you like. So you should see land policies in that perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. I think I will now give to Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister, you could come in for your reflections.
Thank you very much, Master of Ceremonies and Professors. I enjoyed your interventions very much. And of course, it is just a starting point or a starting of a continuous collaboration that we are witnessing with this launch. What one has to realize is that whatever we do in land administration, whether it is on the policy level, whether it's on the administrative level, whether it's on the registration and regulatory level, and whether it is, last not least, but not unimportant, our responsiveness to communities, to national issues, we must be excellent at all levels. And we are on all these levels never alone, because we have impacts into financing, into economics, into livelihoods, into actually all aspects of life and governance. So we have to be excellent at all levels. Most importantly, at the moment, I do believe that we have to be accountable, and our governance must be completely transparent so that we can justify whatever decisions we take, whatever implementation issues that are controversial. And very few are not controversial or ambiguous. So the point of excellence at all levels, transparency at all levels, is, I think, pivotal to us. And this program of ours, hopefully, and I'm confident it will, is providing us with the necessary skills and knowledge and research to achieve those excellence levels at all the different and very complex and interlinked levels that we see in land administration or policy level. I want to congratulate all the participants for having clearly showed an overview of how complex, how dynamic it is. We are having a variety, we have moving targets. Yeah, so we are in a very interesting part of land development, which is moving very, very fast. We are also seeing that it is scarce and the pressures will be increasing. So the better we do, the better we will mitigate any that we receive the necessary tools in the toolbox to achieve that. And I want to thank the participants for helping us in that. Namibia is an interesting case, which you can use as a case study. We have some successes, we have some challenges, we have some opportunities, and we have a great need to tap into the world's knowledge base to solve our domestic and our problems, challenges that we have in land administration. So thank you very much for being able to participate. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister, for that input. Very contextual. The toolbox is there. GLTN is known for developing those toolboxes, and us at NAST as partner to GLTN, and also as having a long-term relationship with the ministry, or at least now for maybe 25 years. I think it is upon us to contextualize the toolbox, to be excellent at all levels, and to enable the ministry to be excellent at all levels where we are needed, to provide that input to assist. I know your director, Dala, is on board here, with somebody that we have always been in contact with at NAST, to come in and assist with curriculum development, making sure that it addresses the needs of the ministry. So excellence at all levels, addressing the controversial issues in the land sector that is a mobile target and difficult at all times to grapple with, recognizing the population growth and therefore greater pressure on the land and demanding development options for the country. I think that really put it in one big picture. for all of us to ensure that we use our partners. And we're very happy for GLTN to take us in as a partner in a network that we tap on those skills. Thank you for that. I think now the Vice Chancellor, I know he had Senex, one of those Senate meetings of the university. I think he's not on board. If he's in, will be good to have him. Otherwise, I will move towards Chikbu, Professor Chikbu, to give us the closing remark. I don't think the Vice Chancellor is in. So closing remark, Eugene Chikbu.
Yeah. First of all, I would like to thank everyone, but most importantly, I'd like to thank the Honorable Minister, not only for coming around, but for staying till the end. One thing that is that is a very clear message from the Minister, and which I very much personally agree with, and I think everyone would agree with him, is that he said that we must be excellent at all levels. This message is pretty important because when one level fails, it affects the others. If it fails at the grassroots level, it affects the policy level. If it fails at the policy level, it affects the global framing level. And so thank you, Honorable Minister, for this very important message. It very much falls in line with the system thinking, or general systems theory, as we would like to call it. We all should work together, because this message also implies that we are all important at different levels. So thank you, Honorable Minister. I'd like to thank the Vice Chancellor for being around. The earlier stage when we made this arrangement, it was very, yes, he did state that he might not stay till the end, but I'm very happy, and my colleagues are all very happy that he was able to make it. Then the Dean of the Faculty of Natural Resources and Special Sciences, Professor Baker, who's here, we are very grateful that you attended, and because it allows that we're able to present our full weight, in this, in this event, and you made it possible, not only by coming, but at the background, making it possible for us to reach the Vice Chancellor and the Minister. Of course, the HOD who chaired it, Professor Kachwa, we want to thank you for the chairing the deliberations. And now I go to my friends. The Global Land 2 Network, as you all know, at the moment is a conglomeration of about 83 different institutions from around the world, including Africa, of course. But what makes NOST unique in this is that NOST is the only African university within the GLTN. While this is a unique position, as well as an opportunity, it is also a very challenging position, because it means that to whom much is given, of course, much is expected from that person. And so I want to thank the Global Land 2 Network for the general facilitation of the teaching essentials that we've just launched, and also for giving NOST the opportunity to host it. Aligning with the Global Land 2 Network is also the specific cluster, which is the Research and Training Cluster of the Global Land 2 Network, which is the actual team that developed this, these teaching essentials, and particularly the authors and the speakers that you heard from on the different modules were the ones who produced them. So I want to thank all of you, and I have my heart is very much into this, and at a personal level, because all of these module authors, speakers, either friends, mentors, or teachers. And Professor Enemark, thanks for coming around. Professor Yab Zeverbergen is supposed to be on holiday. In Europe, it's holiday period, but he still tried to show his presence by presenting the speech. So I thank you all for always being there, both as mentors and friends, as well as personal and institutional friends. We are very happy to have you, and NOS would always call on you, the minister, everybody. This is not going to be the first and the last. We've been having this sort of events, but much more would happen, and we hope that when we call on you again on matters that are pertinent to land, that you would also heed our call and come and support us like you've always done. So I would like to thank all the speakers, all our friends from all over Africa, including the NELGA group from specifically the Southern African NELGA node, and then the general NELGA in Africa. We're happy to have you. All of those people that we had to write and ask to be around, and you all came to support us, we are happy that you came. Just to give you how big this event is to us, we registered 249 people for this event. Of course, during the time of adding them to the MS Teams, it wasn't possible to add everyone, so we were able to add about 230 people. And at the end of the day, we had up to 200 people at some point online. At some point, it was 100. It kept fluctuating. At this point, it says about 69. But we are happy that we're able to get up to 200 people in here for what we call a workshop. And most importantly, we also had our streaming on YouTube, where we had at some point over 100 people online. So this shows the importance of the work we're doing. I would like to, before I close, also mention the University of East London, where Siraj is affiliated with. Actually, the University of East London is a partner in this particular program, because the nod, to get the nod from GLTN for us to host this, that had to go through the University of East London. And I've been working with Siraj for a very long time, and it's been, wonderful working with him, because he always comes up when expected. So unfortunately, Siraj is not here, and that's why he left after some time, and that's why I have to do the final closing. But most importantly, I would like to mention my NOS colleagues who put this thing up. Royo Mabakeng led the group who actually organized this particular event. I would like to thank them, and it's been work all through morning, afternoon, nights. Lina Alexander is one of them. Vanessa Simata and Mario Sikuta. These are the people behind what you're seeing today in all the background work led by Royo. And of course, my general NOS colleagues who have to be here and give their different supports in various ways, including attending this event. You showed us that that we all can work together, and I think it's important that I have to mention that. So to finally close, I would simply like to say it is not yet over. It's only over for today. Tomorrow, we continue with more technical discussion as to where we take these teaching essentials from where we are now. Where do we go in the coming years? What do we do with it? It's one thing to produce it, but it's another thing, produce it and launch it, but it's another thing to finally effectively use it such that it would have impact at all levels, as the minister said. So this is not over except for today, but tomorrow we begin again on the discussions. The minister and some of the people here will probably not be around tomorrow, but we invite all of you once again to join us. NOS cannot go it alone. The GLTN cannot go it alone. And so we invite you as we close today. So on this note, I would like to simply thank everyone who is here and those who left beforehand and say thank you and call it to a close.
Professor Chikmo, I managed to get in. So the last few seconds, if I can use, first of all, to thank you, but also to thank the Honorable Minister, the Vice Chancellor, of course, the excellent chair, but also every member of your team, particularly Roya. So when the Honorable Minister talked about, every level and excellence, I think you at NUST embodied this. But I'd like to also say that NUST is not merely talking about Namibia. What it is doing right now is a model case study for every country, not only in Africa, but all over the world. So congratulations on this huge task. Gratitude also to Jean Duplessis and GLTN. And of course, as you mentioned, whether it be Stieg, Jaap, and every one of the professors who have been part of this. So thank you very much and look forward to joining up again. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Siraj, and thank you all.
Thank you. I'm also back now. Royal, have you taken the screen photos for everybody for your marketing?
Okay. All right. Thank you. For the purposes of marketing, we're going to have a picture of everybody. If you're able to, please switch on your video so that we can have a screenshot. I'm not sure if it will be, yes, we're going to take a screenshot of the meeting. All right. That's brilliant. You can also take your own screenshots because the arrangement can appear differently. I will take one on my own at my own for our social media. And
how do I take a screen photo of my screen here? Not everybody knows.
Don't worry, one is enough.
Okay, I think we have come to the official part of the discussion. So thank you so much, Prof. Kashiwa, and all the speakers, and especially the Honorable Minister for coming. We have officially finished. If you want to chat, you can still remain, but the event is over. Thank you, Dimo. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Remember tomorrow.
All right.
Yes.
Okay, thanks very much. And
Bye-bye.
thank you.
Thank you.
Take care. Enjoy the weekend and tomorrow. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.